Hello everyone, my name is Gianco from Build and Grow. It's really great to see you all. And as you notice, during this 1 hour, we are going to talk about writing, teaching writing, right? I see some of your frowned faces. I truly understand and empathize how you feel when it comes to teaching writing, right? So through this 1 hour workshop, I hope you can get some tips to make your own format to teach writing for your students. So you're not gonna sweat over teaching writing. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 agenda that I'm going to cover today. First, yes, writing is always a teacher's dilemma, but we need to teach writing. So we're going to go into the importance of writing. After that, yes, writing is this important. Then how can we teach writing effectively to our students? So Build and Grow kind of think about the stages and then steps. So as a teacher, you can follow those stages and steps to cover students' writing improvements. So we're going to go over that. After that, I will show you one unit flow of one of the writing book that we have. And then through this one unit flow, like exam together, you're going to get some of the writing teaching tips. So I hope you're ready for the first part over here. Yes. Do you feel this is Snoopy? Right? Whenever we give a writing like work or writing homework or writing project to our students, this is their initial like kind of a reaction, right? So they just write down their name, schools, and then grade, and then class, and then they pause, right? Because they don't know how to begin and what to write and how long, or like what specific aspect that they want to talk. Is it that important or is that enough? They have always that in mind. So whenever writing comes to them, this is initial their expression, right? But the thing is, teacher side, writing is not easy topic to teach neither, because like students, always as a teacher, you always hold this red pen and then you want to cross out as many errors or mistakes from your students writing, and then you want to correct them, and then you want to improve your students writing. If you have that like rigorous mindset, then easily you feel overwhelmed because you have like certain period of the time to teach writing. But if you cover like all of your students mistakes, errors, then of course you're running out of your class time. And also, if you want to correct all your students errors and the mistakes, then somehow you doubt that these students are too dependent on me to correct their writing. So is there any other way that I can make them to be independent writers, right? So these are all the teacher's dilemma, right? But even though we struggle this much with one topic, writing, right? But we still need to teach writing, because writing is just not like write down something on the piece of white paper. It requires lots of human activity. So first, when you think about copywriting, we easily start from copywriting, especially their minis like kindergartners, grade 1 and 2. There's no way that they could write one sentence by themselves. So sometimes we give them like sample sentence, and then they look at them and then they copyright those sentences. If they're improving a bit, they can change 1 or 2 words within the sentence. That's a copywriting, right? So letter to letter. So they look at the text and then they digest with their head, and then they try to copy exact the same with their hands, their motor skills. So that requires brain works too, surprisingly, right? And then once they cover with this copywriting, teacher tried to incorporate this dictation. Sometimes we think dictation is just a listening activity, but it involves writing too. Once they hear the sound, and then they think about the words, sentence structure, sometimes grammar points, and then they digest the sentence, and then they try to write as they listen to. So this requires, surprisingly, listening, brain function, and also writing activity too. And then at the end, you want them to think freely about the topic or theme, and then they write something. This one says brain to write. Sounds simple, but when you think about writing process, you cannot just write. You need to think about the theme or topics that you want to cover. After that, you need to brainstorm your ideas, and then you need to organize that in a right order, and then think about what to add, what to limit, and then after that, they finally write down their own piece of writing. Wow, quite a work, right? So if you look at this importance of writing, it's very obvious. It's not just a writing. It requires reading, listening, and then writing, and then also your students' thinking process. So this slide shows the importance of writing, but as a teacher, when you teach writing, oh, you need to include the copywriting, dictation, and also, yes, of course, writing exercise. That's the way that you can improve your students' well-rounded writing capacity. So we talked about importance of writing, but when you think about the last part with the writing part, that's not just a simple brain to write, right? Within that brain part, they need to plan, organize, draft, like revise, edit, everything's within it. So for our students who does not have enough exercise on that aspect, that might be a burden for them. So to reduce their burden and then overwhelming feeling when it comes to writing, it's always recommendable for you to use lots of model text, which is a sample analysis for your students. So instead of formatting, for example, if they want to write a letter, if you show them a well-written letter for them to look at, then you don't need to worry about what to include, what to include in the beginning and because it shows everything within that good sample. So instead of struggling with the format, they can focus in the meaning. So that helps you a lot to lead your students. And also they can just think about their idea, what to write down, right? Since they already have a nice format. So you don't need to worry about that. And then once they have that the accumulated like knowledges about good sample, then of course you don't need to worry about genre approach for them. As I mentioned before, they already know how to write a letter. Once they tackle that, then they will feel easy when it comes to writing a letter in future. So with this one, model text of the writing is important, but you should do this analyzing and then rewriting with this model writing so they can digest this model writing. Okay, so let's get going. So once they have those model writing digestion, then you need to think about this writing process. This is by Tompkins, 2008. Your students should focus on this flow when it comes to writing process. Pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. So through this process, they can have this detailed planning session for themselves. The more planning, the more, how can I say that, enriched writing text, I would say, because they need to think about the words to include, sentence to include, and also ideas, brainstorming. So that helps them a lot to enrich their writing piece. And then through this process, they can share their ideas and then progress with the teachers and then peers. And through this constant sharing, they can improve their writing as a consistent rate. I think that's really important. And also, they're not just sitting there passively and then write down something. They're in their process, and then they're really actively engaged in each process. Through this like ownership, they can develop their cognitive thinking process or capacity, I would say. So that's why, yes, those model text is really important, but at the same time, as a teacher, you need to think about this detailed writing process for your students. To stress out this writing process, well, Build and Grow think about these four writing stages for your students. First, pre-write, as we discussed, and then write, revise, edit, put together, because our students, they get confused with this process. So we can combine these two together for our students. And at the end, publish. And if you look into these four steps, we can divide this into 9 steps. Wow, seems a lot, right? But when we are talking about pre-writing like stage, it's not just sit there and then think about the themes, right? First, they need to understand the theme and then related the words, what they're going to include to that. And then, oh, those are the theme and then words that I know. Then I can add my ideas, right? After that, once you have your ideas, theme, words, and you can provide really nice model, sample. And then they need to do analysis. And then after that, they can rewrite those model text or samples that they already have. And then through this exercise, they have their own organizational tool in their mind because they're done with this analysis. So they won't have much trouble when it comes to their own writing organization. And then on top of that, you want them to practice a bit more with the sentences that they can include in their writing. Because often we think this must be an intense grammar exercise, but not really. We're going to give out lots of examples, but yes, we have a certain writing plus and grammar points within the sentence. But the thing is, without stressing out too much on the grammar aspect, they can have those sentences within them so they can utilize those sentences in their writing and also in their speaking. That's kind of the main goal over here. After they finish this pre-writing stage with the organization, now they can write and then they can look back their writing, what to include, what to edit, any grammar errors, punctuation errors. After they revise and edit, they can publish finally. So this is 4 stage plus 9 steps when it comes to writing. So from now on, I will show you one unit sample from Write It, the book that we have. And if you look at top of this PPT over here, the title is gonna be To the Future Me, right? And then task is writing a letter. Oh, interesting, right? So they're going to learn how to write a letter through this 4 stage and 9 step that I just mentioned. So let's get started with first step. Get ready. Pre-write section. If you look at this cartoon, It shows, dear future Jeremy. Hi, this is 11-year-old Jeremy. Oh, this must be Jeremy, right? And if you look at this dear, what is he doing? Is he writing a journal? Probably not, right? Writing a letter. And this must be his best friend, Jane. Interesting. And then if you look at the next cartoon over here, it says future. And 110-year-old Jeremy, quite interesting. And then this is future Jeremy's best friend. Interesting. If you look at this cartoon, can you tell this cartoon is trying to explain the situation that Jeremy is in, right? So if you just give them a letter samples or without explaining any situation, they can apply the situation into their own like situation. Students are not that, how can I say that, applicable. So once you provide this situation explanation via cartoon, I think they would understand a lot better about this. And then they think, oh, they can apply themselves within this situation. So I think that's the key aspect over here. And you can check their understanding through Q&A. So this is one of the sample from the book that I got, but you can add a lot more, right? So if you look at the first one, Jeremy is writing a letter or diary entry. Yes, we discussed, right? Letter, good job, everyone. And he is writing to, let's see, dear Jane or future Jeremy? Future Jeremy, right? Good job, everyone. So you can make them be aware. Oh, after dear is the someone who's getting the letter, right? So you can explain that with your students. And next, now, Jeremy is writing something about what he wants to be. So this one is about what you're interested in and what you want to be. So if you look at the first picture over here, it's some little boy is cutting carrot. I think he's cooking, right? So cooking. And then, ooh, she looks very serious, right? I think she's interested in any kind of math problem solving, right? Quite interesting. And then this one, most of my fellow Korean like boy students, and then also I'm pretty sure Central South America boy students, they're always into the soccer, right? And then last one is drawing. So I will show you one picture that matches with this interest. And then if you find the right matches, then tell me. I know that I cannot hear you, but we can do it together, like in our like imaginary classroom participation. So let's start with the first one over here. Artist. Number 5, right? Drawing. Good job, everyone. And the next one, math teachers. 7. I'm pretty sure she could be a great math teacher, right? And the next one, soccer player. Number 3, good job. And then last one, chef. I wanted to be a chef too, so I think this is a really nice match. Great job, everyone. And I know that this is just a 4 examples over here. I'm pretty sure sometimes your students want to add some more, then make them, you can invite them to provide 1 or 2 like interest and then dream jobs, so they can definitely add that into their idea section. Once they tackle all the ideas and the word that they need to digest, now it's time to do model analysis with graphic organizer and then questionnaire. So if you look at this side, this is the letter that Jeremy wrote to future Jeremy. So, dear future Jeremy, hi, this is 11-year-old Jeremy, blah, blah, blah. And Now, what I want you to do is I want you to do analysis, this sample like letter that I'm giving you. But you need to have these tasks to focus on, right? So if you look at this one, what grade are you in? And then I'm in blah, blah grade in elementary school. So they need to find the information from the reading text. But what I'm going to do now, I want you to do a little bit of dictation. Do you remember? Listening, brain working, and then write, right? So I'm going to play the audio first, but the thing is, I totally understand your tendency to look at the reading test instead of listening. So I'm going to get rid of this.
Page 9, Step 1. Read Jeremy's letter to his future self. Dear future Jeremy. Hi, this is 11-year-old Jeremy. I am in 5th grade in elementary school. I live in Chicago. Do you still live here? My best friend is Jane. My favorite thing to do at school is to read books. Right now, my favorite book is The Jungle. I am interested in soccer. I want to be a soccer player in 10 years. Good luck, future Jeremy. Love, Jeremy.
I think this is a really cute letter, right? So let's look at the first one here. I mean, right, 5th grade in elementary school. You guys are doing a great job. And then let's look at the second sentence over here. My best friend is Jane, right? And he is interested in soccer, amazing. And of course, he wants to be a soccer player. I think you all did a great job. I think when you do this dictation activities with your students, try to make them close the book and then focus only on the listening part. I think by doing that, you can definitely check their listening and then writing capacity at the same time. Good. And let's get going. And now this is the sample letter 2. Dear future Laura, hi, this is 12-year-old Laura, and blah, blah, blah. And instead of just filling in the gap activity, if you look at the next over here, you're gonna have this graphic organizer. I think it sometimes, even though you try to do analysis with your students, even though you're color coordinating with a pencil, it's still hard. So sometimes it's very beneficial if they have this well drawn graphic organizer, then it's very easy for them to follow, to organize the information from the text. And then from their side, they can look into this graphic organizer and then having less trouble to transfer this into their own organizational tool. So I think this is very this is great exercise for them to have, for them to kind of be familiar how to use this graphic organizer and then how to do this model analysis. So let's look at the first one over here, basic information, ages. Then once they find the information, I always make them go back to the model and then underline where they find that information. And then after that, grade, 6th grade. Where did you find it? Over here, right? I'm not sure if you have noticed, I did color coordinate. So if you have lower level of students in one classroom, sometimes they get confused with the information within the text and then how they transfer it. So sometimes I make them use a different colored pencil, then it's much easier for them to where that information is located. And then sometimes this kind of exercise help them to organize their own writing in order to. Good, let's get going. And once they finish their model analysis, now it's time to do rewriting this model text. So rewriting means they're gonna write this into letter format, right? So if you look at this one, this is a simple graphic organizer, but they need to transfer this into a sentence. But still, some of them are not sure how many sentences they need to write. To help them, it's always very beneficial for you to provide this tag for your students. First, yes, greeting. And then first body over here, basic information, age, grade, and city. Interesting. And then you are going to explain your favorite things. 3 things. And then your interest and then your future dream. Quite interesting. And then don't forget, this is writing a letter. So you need to have this closing and then your own signature. So once they have this exercise, yes, they understand what to do. Like most of your students would understand, okay, basic information, favorite things, interest, and then future dream. And then don't forget to have greetings, closing, and signature. By doing that, and then they'll be ready to tackle their own writing. And once they finish this model analysis, now it's time to do a bit more sentence practice over here. So if you look at the first examples over here, look at this little boy sitting in a comfy sofa and he's holding remote control, right? And by just looking at this picture, you'd understand my favorite thing to do at home is to watch TV, right? So this is a cue, and then this is a sentence prompt. So with this one, let's look at the second one over here. You see the same word over here, home. Play games. Is he playing a game? Not really, right? I think they are playing games. Interesting. So now, this is the right picture. Good. My favorite thing to do at home is to play game, right? That's good. Now look at the second example over here. Oh, he's so into this TV, right? And then if you look at this, he circled with these teens, right? No friends, no Matilda. So my favorite TV show is Teens. That's a great sentence. Now let's look at this one. What's your favorite video game? Mine, always Candy Crush. I cannot say no to Candy Crush, so I'm going to write down my own sentence. My favorite game is Candy Crush. That's a good one. So this, if you look at these pages within the book, it has multiple sentence exercise. I understand sometimes you're running out of the time, so you can just make them finish within the book. It's fine. But if you have a little more time within the classroom, then I would recommend to this kind of the whole class activity, like I've done with you guys over here. Sometimes you can divide into these 3 groups with the game, Tetris, Battleship, Candy Crush, and then they get together and then they can make a sentence, they can say it out loud. You can definitely incorporate a little bit of whole class and then let's have a big discussion kind of exercise with this writing sentence exercise. Okay, once they finish this sentence practice, then now it's time to start their own writing by organization. This is not very hard part because they've done with this model analysis. Now they can transfer that into their own writing format over here. So organization part has this beautiful graphic organizer. First part, pretty similar, right? So they can write down their name over here, their age, grade, and city. And then 3 things that they like the best, and then their interest, and then future dreams. After they finish that one, they can try to finish writing a sentence bottom over here. I think this is a really nice brain work for them to get ready and then also change from model writing to their own. After they finish this organization, now it's time to do a draft. But as I mentioned, even though they have already this beautiful graphic organizer, all the information that they need to write, still some of your students are struggling. So it's always very helpful for your students to give this guidance right next to their draft section. So through this, looking at this part before they get into their draft, as a teacher, you can always guide your students what to include once more. So even though they forget or they kind of confused, they can always look into this guidance and then they can go back to their draft and then finish it without having too much difficulties. So after this draft, yes, revise and add this section. And in this section, as we discussed from the beginning of this section, it's not possible for us to tell them what is right, what is wrong for the rest of their lives, right? So they need to be aware certain aspect. Certain aspect means where they can fix, they can change by themselves. Capitalization, overall look, punctuation, spellings, those kind of things, it's not like contents editing, right? So this is just a revising kind of exercise. So by giving them this writing patrol, I think it's such a cute name, they can always go back to this chart, and then they can change that based on this writing patrol. And then these signs between students and teachers help them a lot to modify their writings. They're revising their writings. So this kind of sign, I always do some pop quiz kind of thing, because sometimes it's certain part, but if you have more than 10 or 15, some of your students get confused. So if they get confused, then before you start your writing session, you can do a little pop quiz to give them some candies or pencils, depends on what you have. And once they're familiar with these signs between teachers and students, then you can minimize your revising time, because you don't need to explain fully by just looking at them. They understand what you mean. I think that's really key. And then also with these tools, they can use these tools within their own revising process. I think that's very helpful for them to kind of write down something on top instead of insert a word. They can just throw this mountain kind of shape, then they understand what to do next. I think that's kind of the writing skill that they can accumulate throughout this lessons from you. And once they finish revise and editing, yay, final draft, right? So I do understand that sometimes you just finish the final draft and then put them into your students' portfolio. That's it. It's fine, but I would say sometimes it's better to have the presentation session. I do remember once I had such a shy group of students, so there was no way for me to have like oral presentation section. So I make them display their final draft around the classroom, and then quietly we take time to read their final, each other's final draft, and then I try to make them give some star stickers underneath if they like it, and then you can just write down one things that they really like about each other's writing and extra. If you have very like reserved shy students group, then you can definitely have those like presentation work kind of session. And then if you have really active discussion is no problem kind of class, then definitely oral presentation would be a really nice way to share their writings. Okay, I think I did pretty much, I did cover all of this one unit section, which is this part. So if you look at this, to future me, to the future me, writing a letter, and then this is the sentences, and then real life writing, and then pages. This is kind of the what you cover through the unit. I do understand that this, with this limited of the time, I couldn't cover the whole like unit. So if you're interested in, or if you're curious, if you want to more about the content of Write It, you can definitely contact one of the Empress employees. Then they can provide your electronic like booklet or brochure. So you can definitely look into the whole unit of the book. So I hope you enjoyed this like writing workshop with me, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon with your peers and then families. Thank you. Bye.